Gamecock fans. It's the Carolina CrowLine. And here's your host, Tyler, Garrett.
We may not be LSU or Alabama, but we ain't Clemson.
11 wins is for every Gamecock, always.
Welcome into another exciting edition of the program. I'm your host, Tyler Garrett. Glad to be with you here on the Carolina CrowLine. Number to call, 803-450-0086. We're going to review the week on the hardwood. Gamecocks split the games 1-1 after a heartbreaking loss to Missouri and a good old-fashioned beatdown of the Arkansas Razorbacks. We're going to hear a little bit from Coach Frank Martin in his Arkansas postgame and take a look at the week ahead. Baseball America has come out with their top 25 for the college baseball. I'll tell you where the Gamecocks fall and let you hear exactly what they had to say about the upcoming season and lineup changes. A little bit from Mr. SEC from the world of the Twittersphere, your emails, and more. Stick with us as we jump out of this short break on the Carolina CrowLine.
At TurboTax, we know your paycheck is more than a number.
It's brown bag lunches every day.
It's picking up extra shifts.
And it's catching the bus to work.
You work hard to earn your money, and we want to help you stretch every dollar. That's why TurboTax lets you file your simple federal return for free. It's free to prepare, print, e-file, and you can even chat with a tax expert. TurboTax, the power to keep what's yours. Get the federal free edition at TurboTax.com. Live tax help service is subject to availability, restrictions, and change without notice. See TurboTax.com for details.
Hey, honey.
Hi, Dad.
What you drawing?
It's our house. That's you.
Oh.
Me.
Huh?
Mom and Josh.
Wow.
Playing ball.
You are becoming quite the artist.
When you're a kid, you don't know that home ownership builds communities, that owning a home contributes to higher self-esteem and better test scores. You just know that home is where you play, grow, and learn. The National Association of Realtors wants you to know that home ownership matters to our families, our neighborhoods, and our country. Learn more at houselogic.com/homeownership.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
The Southeastern Conference has established the most outstanding college football tradition in the country. The 14 member institutions have combined for an unprecedented 459 bowl appearances. Key to the success of SEC football is support of the many loyal fans who have helped the conference lead the nation in total attendance for 29 consecutive years. The SEC salutes the more than 6.5 million fans who will attend a game at an SEC stadium this year.
It was the moment I realized I was about to lose my job.
I found myself searching for pills instead of just being with my family.
At that moment, I finally decided to get help for my addiction to opioids.
The prescription painkillers.
At turntohelpnow.com, you'll learn that opioid dependence is a real medical condition and that there are different ways to get help, including those in a private setting, without the need for daily visits.
That moment led me to turntohelpnow.com.
Make now your moment. Visit turntohelpnow.com today.
Extremely dry, itchy skin needs intensive relief that lasts. So get Gold Bond Intensive Healing Cream. With 2 dedicated medicines, it targets the underlying causes of itch and irritation, whether they be allergies, rashes, irritation, or just dry, chapped skin. And it has 7 moisturizers to provide relief that lasts and lasts. Gold Bond Intensive Healing Cream. Intensive healing for lasting itch relief. Use as directed.
Welcome into the program. We are just getting started here on this edition of the Carolina CrowLine. You are listening live Monday evening, January 28th, You could follow us right now. Jump on the internet, log into www.spreecast.com. You can go ahead and follow our live streaming webcast. Just search for Carolina CrowLine, and there I will be in all my glory. Also, if you don't get a chance to pick up the program, that's not a problem. You can go ahead and log into iTunes and download every edition of the Carolina CrowLine as a podcast for free and listen to it while you're jogging around the block or while your wife is making you do chores and you just rather listen to some sports in your headphones. If you can't do that, that's okay. You can follow us throughout the week, our live updates about what's going on with Carolina sports on Twitter, at Carolina CrowLine, hashtag CrowLine. You can also follow us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook, I guess is the proper term. And there also you will find updates about what's going on with Gamecock sports throughout the week as well. But let's go ahead and kick off the program. We are going to dive headfirst straight into basketball. South Carolina men's basketball splits the week this past week, 1-1, falling 65-71 on the road up in Columbia, Missouri, to the Missouri Tigers that were ranked 22nd in the nation at the time. South Carolina jumps all over Missouri, breaking out to as high as a 13-point lead at one time in the game. However, Missouri goes on a 22-2 run there in the second half. Only made 2 of their 3-pointers, 2 of their 12 3-pointers in the game, but those 2 were big ones there towards the end, and then South Carolina was just forced to foul, and the lead, the score is not quite as close as what it was. Missouri outscoring the Gamecocks by 14 points in the second half. Again, we talked about it previously on the last edition of the Carolina CrowLine. It just seems like your heart breaks for the men's basketball team, a young team learning how to play under first-year head coach Frank Martin, finding every single way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Again, I even made the comment, and I suppose it's my own fault. I shouldn't have even said it, but I said that South Carolina, what other possible way can they find to lose a basketball game? Well, apparently I didn't think of jumping out all over a top 25 nationally ranked team by 13 points and then just completely falling apart in the second half. Can't make a bucket, turning the ball over, perimeter defense just kind of going by the wayside and struggling to maintain a lead there. Once that crowd got into it, you could just kind of sense the tide and the momentum turning. Basketball is a game of runs. One team kind of makes their run and then fizzles out, and then that other team kind of gets momentum back and makes their run, and it just so happened that Missouri's run came in the second half there. But after that, Coach Frank Martin not very pleased with his basketball team. Just a few quotes from the coach in his post-game press conference from Missouri. He said, the song and dance for us is getting old. This game, 5 in league play, and it's 5 games in under 2 minutes to play that we have a chance to win the game, and we're 1-4. The song and dance is getting old. At the end of the day, we answered their push, and you knew they were coming. I've been in this building enough to know that regardless of what your lead is, they're always going to make a push. Our guys answered that push, and we retook the lead, and it gets down to about 2 minutes to go. I got no idea. We committed some over the backs and some hand checks that we can't commit. Those are bad fouls. I thought both teams were going at it at the rim. I'm not going to go there. I'm probably not going to wake up real happy in the morning if I go there. I don't know what to tell you. They came at us. We went at them. South Carolina, it seemed like, was always coming up with the loose ball. However, out-rebounding the Missouri Tigers. However, that's a double-edged sword. That kind of cuts both ways because if you're out-rebounding, especially on the offensive end, that means your shots are not going in. So while that's a pretty statistic on the paper, that's just kind of indicative of the missed shots down the stretch overall. So South Carolina left Missouri with their tails tucked between their legs, but then they came home with a vengeance, taking apart the Arkansas Razorbacks by 21 points to the score of 75-54. We talked about Arkansas last week, how they're struggled mightily on the road. They are a team that has some ball players and that has stringed together some good wins, and they are dominant at home. However, we talked about even going all the way back to last season, that 14 of their 16 losses have come on the road or at neutral sites, and that rings true this past week for South Carolina as well. So they finally get their second SEC win. I mentioned that it looked daunting task for South Carolina to even get one win in this previous week here past with one of these tough SEC opponents, and it's only going to get tougher. That's right. Up next, it's going to be the Florida Gators, the odds-on favorite as the #1 team in the SEC. They're going down to Gainesville to take on the #4 ranked Florida Gators, 16-2, and a perfect record in the SEC. And then the Gamecocks will come back home and see what kind of damage they can do against the Georgia Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, a team that really has been struggling through the season. This looks like a prime opportunity to get another win in the win column here for the Gamecocks. And then you just take a look at what's coming down the road. We've mentioned away at the Gators, home to the Bulldogs, and then you have to travel up to that old place known as Lexington, Kentucky, and take on the Wildcats. Again, with this new scheduling, you only get Kentucky once this year as opposed to every single team in the East playing them twice. You only get Kentucky, you get Tennessee, you get those guys once apiece, you get Vanderbilt twice, Missouri twice, you get Georgia twice, so Mississippi State twice also. So it looks like there are some games to be had later on in the schedule, but it's just going to get tougher when you look at the rest of February. Again, recapping, it's home to UGA, which certainly looks like a winnable basketball game. Down to Gainesville, it's going to be very tough for the Gamecocks to pull it off there. Up to Lexington, Kentucky. Again, Kentucky certainly not having the year that Kentucky fans were expecting, especially coming off that national championship. But again, a team with a ton of talent. Even though they are first-year players, I think talent over time a lot of times kind of overwhelms players of lesser talent that are better within a system. Then home to Tennessee, that's going to be a very challenging ball game. And then you get the LSU Tigers here at home, a team that you were actually able to beat in overtime out in Baton Rouge for your very first SEC victory on the year. So if you can continue to build on that momentum, try and beat LSU again for a second time, then you're looking pretty good here in terms of Gamecock basketball, I guess you can say. Overall speaking, this is not pretty good. I think South Carolina fans would be ecstatic with something as simple as an NIT berth, and that's something we've brought up here on the CrowLine. South Carolina with 2 SEC victories right now, you would have to imagine that they would need to get at least 4 more victories, and I think there are victories out there to be had for the South Carolina Gamecocks in terms of being able to get to the NIT. But we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. Stick with us on the other side of this short break, and we're getting into a little bit of Coach Martin's post-game press conference on the CrowLine. Stick with us.
Pride and ambition and Gamecock traditions, yeah, we're all one big family. Carolina, sweet Carolina, yeah, I'm proud of where I'm from.
All right, welcome into the Carolina CrowLine. We are in the middle. We are knee-deep in South Carolina men's basketball. A quick wrap-up of the previous week. Again, South Carolina goes 1-1 on the week, falling to Missouri, a tough nationally ranked top 25 squad that South Carolina had right where they wanted, just couldn't quite hang on there for the victory. But then South Carolina bounces back really nicely. You got to give it to these guys. I haven't really said it that much, but, first-year system. I got a lot of guys learning to play, learning to provide and give what Coach Martin wants, and just really bouncing back, staying in a positive frame of mind, and just really beating down the Arkansas Razorbacks. South Carolina jumped out to an early lead, 43-26 at the half, and then just continued to steamroll Arkansas and never really let them up off the mat. And that's kind of the mentality that you're waiting to see from this basketball team. It's something that you didn't get to see against Missouri, but then the very next game, the exact same thing starts to play out. And this time, South Carolina, with the help of the home fans, is able to keep the pedal down and close that victory out in a dominating fashion, and hopefully that's something for them to build off. Again, a tough road game coming up here against the Gators. I'm not going to sit here and say we're definitely going to lose that, but it's just going to be tough to imagine how they're going to be able to pull that out. But a chance to rebound here at home against a struggling Bulldog team. Randy, who's following us here on Spreecast, asks, is there a minimum number of wins required to get into the NIT? No, there's not like a set number of wins, but you just have to think if South Carolina can kind of get that magic number of 6 conference wins, that at least would give them an opportunity for consideration into the NIT. A lot of the people who cover the media types that cover the Gamecocks have kind of set the bar at 6 conference wins. So when you continue to look at the schedule, if those are wins that are there to be had, which I believe they are, a UGA, a home versus LSU that you've already beaten, you go to Athens to face UGA, a Mississippi State team who you almost beat earlier in the year at their place, who only has 7 scholarship basketball players, a Vanderbilt squad who you only lost to by 6 points there at the very end of the game. There are wins out there to be had. So if South Carolina is able to continue to improve and progress, and I think that's really what South Carolina fans didn't see with Darren Horn during his time here. It was just kind of the same old mediocre nonsense. They couldn't penetrate a zone. Their defense wasn't that good. They would continue to put up three-pointer after three-pointer after three-pointer, and it just wasn't a good product on the floor. I think at least you can see that, and you've heard Frank Martin talk about it, how can we get better today? Getting better every single day, and those are the sorts of things that are music to the fans of Gamecock Nation, because if this continues and he continues to bring in some of the recruits that he has in the bag and some of the recruits, especially in the state of South Carolina, that are coming up through the sophomore, junior, senior ranks of high school right now, we're starting to grow a good local crop of South Carolina basketball players, and you haven't been able to say that in a long, long time. But it is starting to happen again. I mean, you think of guys like Ray Allen. You think of guys like Kevin Garnett. You think of guys like Jermaine O'Neal, all South Carolina-born players. You think of a guy like Ty Lawson, who went up to Chapel Hill, all South Carolina-born players. Of course, a couple of those guys went straight to the draft out of high school, but some of those guys got away. There's a kid that's riding the bench right now in Chapel Hill. His name is Bryce Johnson. He's another local product that got away that went up to the Tar Heels. So if you can get those guys home, you can continue to prove and get that tough defensive mentality. I look forward to great things here at the South Carolina basketball program. But that's enough of me rambling about basketball. Let's hear from the man himself. Coach Frank Martin talks about that impressive victory against the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Frank, it seems like the last 2 games you guys have been having a lot of success running the offense through the high post. I know you've had it before in the year, but has that been a point of concentration on the past 2 games?
We don't have 6 foot. I guess we do have a 6'10" guy, but we don't have 6'10", 260-pound, just strong low post guys. And if I try, see, I guess I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, which I'm pretty good about. But in 1993, I took a high school job at North Miami High, and I tried to play the same system that we played with at my high school, and which was a strong power game at the rim, and we won 20 games. But I had 6'4", 6'3" post guys. When we played the top 2 or 3 high schools in the city that had 6'8", 6'7" guys, it was hard for us to succeed. So I learned that year that I can't be stubborn. If I don't have the personnel, we got to make adjustments. And so we try to facilitate things for our bigs through, we call them elbows, the pinch post area. We try to facilitate stuff for our guys through there, and then cut them into post-ups. That way they can create an angle, and it's not unfair because of the size.
Frank, when you guys are down 15-3, you call that timeout. What did you say to the guys in that timeout?
This ain't good. Nah, there's sometimes you call timeout, you don't have to say too much. I just told him, 3 minutes into the game, we're all right. And then Bruce did most of the talking. Bruce wanted to make sure everyone kept their heads in it. Long game, relax, it's all good. Only thing I talked about was keep throwing the ball inside, which we had done. We just missed some shots, but we got to run back. Because they if you miss shots against them, I said Missouri's a jailbreak. I don't know what this is here. This is a bad country break. I mean, I saw them on film score a shot 3 seconds into the shot clock. That's how fast they come at you. So Bruce did most of the talking. Just wanted to make sure we all stayed on the same page and we're good. And it happens sometimes. Guys are, we miss some easy shots, and it didn't deflate us, but it affected us running back. And we that can't happen. So guys responded great.
Just a quick follow-up to that. How gratifying was that for you to hear Bruce take charge in that huddle, considering, just a week and a half ago you talked about needing that?
It's been happening. It's been happening. He's got that personality. He's got that demeanor. If you're an athlete and guys have been practicing for 3 months, you can't walk in the first day and open your mouth. I don't care how much of a leader you are. Well, now he's been with us here for a little while. He's starting to feel real comfortable, so it's allowing him to inject his personality into the team because he's doing things better, and he's better understanding what we're supposed to do.
Coach, you said you didn't say much during that timeout when they were down 15-3. Does this mean that they have a better understanding now of what you want and what it's going to take to get that accomplished?
I think we as coaches understand our players better, and I would hope they're understanding what we want better. I think we're playing better. I'll tell you what, I said a lot less there than I said when I took Limonis out of the game when they got 7 offensive rebounds and he stood out of bounds and watched the whole thing take place. I spoke a lot more there. I probably don't like what I said, but listen, as I've talked about this, as you move forward, you go through the ups and downs of the season. You go through the good, the bad, the indifferent, and the most important part is that you learn from each other. Because if you don't learn from each other, you can't function together. And the whole object is to play your best basketball, whenever they say, that time of year comes where they say, hey, you got a game left. If you win, you play again. If you don't, you're done. Well, the object is to play your best game of the year that day. And to do that, you got to continue to get better. And I think we're getting better.
Frank, you guys have rebounded pretty well this season. Today you had some really good stretches there, especially when they tried to make that push. You were able to kind of be able to hit the boards. Just how crucial was that, especially when they made their run?
For everyone that thinks that to rebound you got to be 7-1, I think this team should explain to people that if you're willing to rebound, you got a chance to win, regardless of what you look like in a picture. And that's a big part of who we are. It's a big part of who we are.
All right, so there's a little bit from Coach Frank Martin. There's a little technical difficulty there, but we'll jump out to a little break. No problem. We'll wrap up basketball on the other side of this break, and then we'll get into a little bit of football, a little bit of baseball, and your emails right here on the CrowLine.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the #1 cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Stop pain now. Pain keeps you from enjoying life, or worse, keeps you up at night. Stop pain now with real-time pain relief, the great-smelling topical pain relief cream you can try absolutely free. That's right. Go to painfreeoffer.com and get a free sample with free shipping right now. No credit card needed at painfreeoffer.com. We're so sure it'll work, even if everything else you've tried hasn't. You get a free sample with free shipping, absolutely no cost to you at painfreeoffer.com. painfreeoffer.com.
And my name is Ray Harland. I've been using real-time pain relief now for about 9 months. Real-time pain relief has been a godsend because this is the only topical that actually touches my pain and reduces it.
This is a truly no-risk offer that can stop your pain. Go to painfreeoffer.com and get a free sample of real-time pain relief cream with free shipping. You won't be asked for a credit card. Go to painfreeoffer.com now. Click today and be pain-free. painfreeoffer.com.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
We scoop the poop. DutyCalls.com. When nobody else will do it. DutyCalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to DutyCalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. DutyCalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Carolina CrowLine. We are still, I call it ankle deep in basketball now. We were knee deep in basketball earlier. Now, just a little ankle deep in basketball as we're kind of winding down the basketball coverage for this edition of the program. Still time for you to get on the phone line, 803-450-0086. You can go ahead and tweet to us at Carolina CrowLine, at Carolina CrowLine with your questions or thoughts, hashtag CrowLine. You can email us, Carolina@y'all.com, Carolina@y'all.com. That's YALL.com. And we'll get into your emails a little bit later. Of course, you can always like us on Facebook to get all your Carolina Gamecock sport updates as the week continues in between your weekly doses of the Carolina CrowLine. You heard Frank Martin there a little bit talking about how did the makeup of our basketball team and how he's starting to get the bigs, I guess you can call them the bigs, for our basketball team involved in the game plan now. And when you take a look at the roster and you think, well, what's a big for the University of South Carolina? 6'11", Lamonis Chatkevicius. He's our 6'11 guy, a freshman, still learning the system. You heard Frank Martin, if you tuned in last week, talk about how Lamonis is having real problems with his conditioning and his endurance, just kind of getting worn out after a couple times up and down the court, starting to make silly, tired fouls. And then your next big guy is 6'10", Carlton Geathers, but he's been hurt for all the way up until he finally logged just a few short minutes against the Razorbacks, but he has been hurt the entire first half of the season, I guess, now, and it's going to take some time for him to get involved. And we'll see how Frank Martin's game plan evolves as Carlton was really counted on to be a starter this year and kind of be that big man down low, really not even big enough to be a true center, of course. So there is no true center really on this team. The other guy, R.J. Slauson, is a 6'8" wingman who has really been counted on to kind of be the man down low to take on the bigs of the opponents. Again, when you take a look at the next matchup here against the Florida Gators, senior leadership is the name of the game here. When you take a look, Kenny Boynton, guard, senior. When you take a look at Mike Rosario, the other guard, senior. When you take a look at Eric Murphy, the 6'10", 238-pound forward center. Senior leadership and experience in the Billy Donovan system. That is why the Gators are cruising and flying so high right now. I just don't see any way, unless the Gators just have a horrible night shooting the basketball, if South Carolina can get them into some early foul trouble. Again, the Gators, of course, have great depth with Patrick Young, the junior, along the baseline there. It's just going to be a tall task to go down into Gainesville and leave with a victory. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not very optimistic. Again, though, South Carolina has really grown over the past 3 or 4 games. So if they can continue to build on that, I'm just looking for a positive showing. If they can make it a game, be within 5 points of halftime, maybe continue to catch up with the Gators. Traditionally, when you have a matchup like this, it's kind of a game back and forth, with maybe an 8-point, 5-point lead going into halftime, and then the more talented team generally just starts to pull away and assert itself as the game plan continues to develop, and as teams like a South Carolina, who suffers from depth, especially on the low block, gets into foul trouble, a la Michael Carrera. Hello. We've talked about him on the CrowLine as well. That enthusiastic, intense freshman, but still learning how to play the game and play clean without getting into early foul trouble. It just looks like the Gators are just going to be too strong, and what I would expect to be them pull away there in late in the second half. But we'll see how it goes. We'll just have to. Nobody knows until we play the games. I guess that's the phrase that you hear. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. So the Gators look awfully strong on paper, though. I just don't really see a true way that South Carolina is going to stand that much of a chance. But more optimistic as the week continues against the Georgia Bulldogs. We're going to turn our attention a little bit to baseball. That's right. It's just one short month away. South Carolina coming off unprecedented success in the world of college baseball. 3 back-to-back-to-back national championship appearances. Of course, South Carolina won the first 2, got swept by Arizona last year in the finals of the College World Series. Baseball America has released their top 25 and kind of broken down the strengths and weaknesses and the projected lineups for each of these top 25 teams. And let me tell you, there's going to be a lot of new faces on the field for the University of South Carolina. However, South Carolina does come in ranked number 7 preseason in the top 25. Last year going 49-20, an RPI of 7 overall. As we know, Coach Ray Tanner decided to leave the baseball program after Eric Hyman resigned as athletics director to go out to Texas A&M. Ray Tanner gets that promotion, gets bumped up to the athletic director. Chad Holbrook, his assistant coach, now takes over. Chad Holbrook, a guy who came down from the University of North Carolina, where he was a lead recruiter and assistant coach there. Takes the same role here as hitting coach as well. By the way, as a little side note, Chapel Hill, the number 1 ranked team, preseason top 25 in the land for college baseball. Overall, though, projected lineup, if you take a look at what's going on, of course, Evan Marzilli is no longer here. Christian Walker is no longer here. Adam Matthews is no longer here. Matt Price is no longer here. Michael Roth is no longer here. A lot of turnover in the lineup. Grayson Griner is going to be your starting catcher just like last year. L.B. Dantzler, who was our starting third baseman, looks like he's going to be moving over to first base to make room for Chase Ferguson, who's a senior this year, a guy who kind of played second and short and floated around. He looks like he's going to get into the lineup at third base. Freshman Max Schrock from Raleigh, North Carolina, what they're calling right now the strongest and most talented hitter on this lineup already as a freshman, is going to be your starting second baseman. Of course, Joey Pancake, laugh, ha, 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 we all know Pancake, Joey Pancake, hit a home run on National Pancake Day, blah, blah, blah. That thing was drilled into the ground. He's, of course, going to be your starting shortstop, and he's going to be kind of your de facto leader for the offense. A talented transfer, Graham Seiko from Tallahassee Community College, is going to be your left fielder. Last year's left fielder, Tanner English, the speedy Tanner English, is going to move over to center field and take the place of Evan Marzilli. TJ Costin is going to get his chance in right field, and it looks like Eric Payne, possibly Kyle Martin, are going to be your DH. As far as your weekend rotation, last year it was, of course, Michael Roth was your Friday guy. Jordan Montgomery got some time. Colby Holmes got some time. Forrest Kumis got some time as your weekend starters. But it looks like Jordan Montgomery is going to be the guy that gets the ball first, a sophomore left-hander. He was 6-1 last year with a 3.62 ERA and 57 strikeouts in 75 innings. Colby Holmes, the senior, looks like he's going to be your Saturday righty. 7-2 last year, 65 strikeouts in 80 innings. The true freshman from Virginia Beach, Virginia, Jack Wynkoop, is going to be all likelihood get the first crack at the Sunday start, the left-handed pitcher, and of course Tyler Webb, the All-American, 6-1 in a relief appearance last year with a 1.56 ERA in 58 innings pitched with 58 strikeouts. He's going to be that big-time lefty relief pitcher that's going to come in, and Evan Beal looks like he's going to be your closer, the talented kid from from Charleston. There, I got that out, finally. But it looks like overall Chad Holbrook is going to bring a style that's going to be a faster style. He's getting Tanner English a chance to switch hit. Tanner English had a record 75 strikeouts last year, so they're going to get him switch hitting so that he can go ahead and try and lower those strikeouts. Amazingly, even though he struck out so much, Tanner English had a slash line of 298, an on-base percentage of 341, and a 355 slugging percentage with 23 RBIs and 12 steals. So this is a kid that can do some serious damage. The problem is getting him on base. When he got on base, he was able to make things happen and manufacture some runs. So he's going to be that guy that's critical to get on base. Grayson Griner and LB Dantzler and Max Schrock are going to be your power hitters. Of course, Pancake and Seiko can drive the ball. But that's going to kind of be what your lineup looks like. If you take a look at the rest of the top 25 real quickly, I'll just give you your top 10, of course, from the ACC. Number 1, North Carolina. Number 2 in the SEC, Vanderbilt. Number 3, Arkansas. So 2 SEC teams right there. Number 4, Louisville. Number 5, Mississippi State, another SEC opponent. Number 6, Oregon State. Of course, Carolina at number 7. NC State comes in at number 8, right behind the Gamecocks. Number 9, Stanford. And then number 10, LSU. So the top 10 is jam-packed with SEC talent. You've got Kentucky at 11. You've got Ole Miss at 13. So, again, the SEC domination in baseball just continues. Where is Florida, you ask? Well, they are ringing in at number 17, a team that you would say has kind of been falling short of expectations. All those lottery picks, some national championship appearances, but haven't quite been able to break through yet. So that's where we are with baseball. Stick with us here for more on the Carolina CrowLine. We're going to get into your emails. A little bit of interesting quotes from defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward about the new coach, Deke Adams. Stay with us. Welcome back into the Carolina CrowLine. We are just talking a little bit of baseball. Again, if you missed us there on the front side of that break, South Carolina comes in number 7 in the Baseball America poll. It's really weird. There's about 4 or 5 different baseball websites for college baseball. There's no real unanimous sort of website. I've seen South Carolina as far down as 11. I've seen them generally right around the number 7 area. There's no real, I guess, true de facto website or service that kind of ranks college baseball. I think Baseball America is probably the most reputable and one that most people know about, so that's the one we're going to go with. Just in case you were wondering, Arizona, the team that swept the Gamecocks last year right out of the national championship game series, I guess I should say, taking 2 games to none, comes in at number 24 here on their poll. So we'll see if South Carolina can experience some of that success. It'll be what kind of coach is Chad Holbrook? Does he kind of do the same things that a Ray Tanner would do in certain situations? Ray Tanner, a guy that would come out in the middle of a pitch count and talk to his hitters about what they're seeing, how they're feeling about at the plate, giving them some kind of recommendations about what some things they should look for, what he wants them to do. South Carolina, a team that calls every single pitch from the dugout. The catcher, Grayson Griner, is not a guy who kind of has the leisure to call pitches as you would traditionally think, a la Major League Baseball. So do some of the little things change here, and does South Carolina kind of have trouble with the new faces, kind of getting off to a quick start right off the bat? And how are those small changes in the coaching staff, in kind of the new regime, how does that affect a team that's been able to experience some success, and especially if they stumble out of the gate similar to what they did in 2011 in their second national championship? How does that affect the team, especially with so many new faces? Do the seniors, L.B. Dantzler, Chase Ferguson, or some of the guys like Pancake and Griner that have been in the lineup now, how does that kind of affect what's going on with these guys? It'll be interesting to see. So get your tails out to the Ray down there, Carolina Ballpark, a beautiful place. It'll be too soon before you know it. Baseball will be right around the corner. But we're going to kind of put a bow on that. We're going to jump into a little bit of interesting quotes that I saw off of Twitter about the departure of Brad Long, and we talked about that a little bit and how he left for personal reasons and what exactly that meant and kind of that whole scenario and situation. And not too much has come to light about that. You think personal reasons, and well, what the heck does that mean? Well, Coach Lorenzo Ward had some interesting quotes back when this whole situation kind of went down, and when he was talking about, the hiring of Deke Adams, who he worked with briefly during his time at Southern Miss, coming down from Chapel Hill. Coach Ward, he had some interesting quotes, and he said that Brad's reasons to leave, and this is quoting Lorenzo Ward's quote, Brad's reasons to leave here was way beyond football, and that's between him and his family. And he continued on, quoting, he said, it became a little bit more than football. He felt like he and his family needed a new start. That's what they're going to do. I think at this point in his career, money is always an issue, especially when you're getting close to an age, when you're trying to make as much as you can before retirement. But I think it had to do with a lot more than money. And Mr. SEC here is a guy by the name of John Pennington, who kind of runs the Mr. SEC website, kind of ripped open Lorenzo Ward here and kind of saying that was kind of out of bounds. It wasn't professional. You're supposed to just kind of say, we wish Brad Long luck moving forward and wish him all the best and thank him for the time and what he did here at the University of South Carolina, developing great defensive linemen. He just goes on to say that he thinks that's out of bounds in a profession where coaches move time and again. There was no need for Lorenzo Ward to give any explanation at all for a coach's departure. He was looking for a new opportunity, should be all that he should have said. And then he goes on to kind of call out Ward, saying that he himself has bounced around from Chattanooga to Virginia Tech to the NFL to Arkansas and then to USC. So, where do you fall on that? In my opinion, I guess he could have said that. He could have just said, you know what, we thank Brad Long for all his time and hard work here at the university and continue wishing him much success. It is interesting. If it just seems like if things kind of ended on the typical terms, then you should have just been professional and just kind of left it at that. We don't need to know all the dirty laundry that's being aired out behind the curtain a little bit. Steve Spurrier had some interesting quotes at the halftime interview after the Arkansas, or I guess during the Arkansas game. He was talking about, he's all for coaches that work for him going on to new higher opportunities. He made a point to say higher opportunities, a coordinator position or a head coaching position. He said he's always had a policy that he doesn't want his head coaches interviewing for lateral moves. He said if he finds out that, and I'm paraphrasing, essentially what he said was if he's going to have coaches that are interviewing for lateral moves, they may not have a job when they come back to Columbia. And you just you take all this and kind of add it together, and you just kind of see the writing on the wall, and it just seems like there was something here going on that upset the apple cart. Maybe if Brad Long made a comment or went to talk to Spurrier about possibly interviewing in other positions for the same kind of job that he was working here. Of course, Long is a guy who's coaching only defensive ends down there in Gainesville now. He has an assistant head coach tag. I think that's just a tag that's going to allow him to earn a higher salary. But he is not a coordinator down there in Gainesville. As a matter of fact, he's not even coaching the entire defensive line. He's only coaching the defensive ends. So it just kind of seems like an odd situation. It's something that you really don't see every day. I guess I can see where Mr. SEC is coming from. But overall, I really just don't see that big of a deal to this whole situation at all, in my opinion. I think that it's just going to kind of die down. Coaches, Spurrier is excited about Deke Adams. He thinks he's going to be the kind of guy that he needs to have around here at USC, a family man, a great recruiter, and those sorts of things. So that's just kind of where we are with that, and that's my take on it. Stick with us. We're going to jump out to a quick break and then come back in the final segment. We're going to get to an email that regards the new recruiting rules for the NCAA. Things could get real sticky here for high school football players. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
All I wanna do is put a drink in my hand.
It was the moment I realized I was about to lose my job.
I found myself searching for pills instead of just being with my family.
At that moment, I finally decided to get help for my addiction to opioids.
The prescription painkillers.
At turntohelpnow.com, you'll learn that opioid dependence is a real medical condition and that there are different ways to get help, including those in a private setting, without the need for daily visits.
That moment led me to turntohelpnow.com.
Make now your moment. Visit turntohelpnow.com today.
Hey, honey.
Hi, Dad.
What you drawing?
It's our house. That's you.
Oh.
Me.
Huh?
Mom and Josh.
Wow.
Playing ball.
You are becoming quite the artist. When you're a kid, you don't know that home ownership builds communities, that owning a home contributes to higher self-esteem and better test scores. You just know that home is where you play, grow, and learn. The National Association of Realtors wants you to know that home ownership matters to our families, our neighborhoods, and our country. Learn more at houselogic.com/homeownership.
Extremely dry, itchy skin needs intensive relief that lasts. So get Gold Bond Intensive Healing Cream. With 2 dedicated medicines, it targets the underlying causes of itch and irritation, whether they be allergies, rashes, irritation, or just dry, chapped skin. And it has 7 moisturizers to provide relief that lasts and lasts. Gold Bond Intensive Healing Cream. Intensive healing for lasting itch relief. Use as directed.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2.
Oh, yeah. Chili Peppers, always a fan favorite. Welcome back. We are wrapping up here on the Carolina CrowLine with our final segment of the program. We're getting into a little bit of recruiting, and National Signing Day is February 6th. We're going to have your full South Carolina recruiting breakdown on our next edition of the program next week, so stay tuned for that if you're a recruiting buff. But the NCAA is looking to kind of compress or reduce or streamline their 250-some-odd page rule book here, and they're starting with recruiting. And there was an email last week after this kind of broke after the CrowLine, and Jim emails in, and he wanted to know, he was interested to know how the new NCAA rules regarding printed material and texting will affect recruiting. There. I'm having some problems, but I got it out finally. Does this include just coaches? Does this include pay sites like a Gamecock Central or a Gamecock Anthem, or the Rivals or ESPN sites where you can pay and cover recruiting of your local, your fan football team, or is it just for coaches only? And if you're not familiar with the rule changes right now, boy, if you are a parent of a high school football player who's getting recruited by colleges, this is just going to – it looks like it really has the potential to cause quite a bit of chaos. Right now, the rules proposals say there's a proposal 11-4 which eliminates restrictions on how many coaches can recruit off campus at a given time. Every coach and assistant coach has kind of a recruiting territory. Now they're saying everybody can go out and go around wherever they want to. Everybody can go to the same school and kind of like ascend like a Gamecock coach pack of soldiers onto a football team. There's another one that says a proposal which eliminates a list of required materials. Right now, to schools must send to recruits like a banned drug list or APR data, which talks about GPA and those sorts of things, and how many secondary violations a school has. Now a school doesn't even have to do that. It eliminates, there's another one that eliminates restrictions on sending printed materials like media guides, comic books, etc. to recruits, letters, you could only send so much before. There were dead periods where you could only send letters. You couldn't have in-person contact with recruits. Now they're proposing to get rid of all that. You could only text recruits a certain amount of time. Now they're proposing to get rid of all that, not to mention contact with social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. Now they're trying to get rid of all of that. They're just kind of declaring an open season on recruiting for coaching staffs. And I've heard stories of Alabama sending 100 letters to a recruit all on the same day, getting 100 recruiting letters delivered to their home via mail because they want them to come play football at the University of Alabama. Now also in addition to that, football programs can hire a recruiting coordinator and a recruiting support staff just to handle recruiting, not even to coach the football players, just to have your whole separate recruiting department, kind of like tech support for your football team. Now, right now, your recruiting coordinator, like for South Carolina, is Steve Spurrier Jr., and he's a recruiting coordinator. He's also a coach. So your coaches handle recruiting. You have lead recruiters. Sean Elliott has a recruiting territory, and he recruits players out of that area. Now they're saying you can just have like a crack recruiting squad that you can just go out and and recruit on your behalf, and the coaches don't even need to do their jobs recruiting-wise anymore. They can just kind of come in and swoop in and put the bow on getting this kid to commit. And it just seems like a giant headache. This thing is going to get out of control. You think of a Lane Kiffin or a Nick Saban of the world. Nick Saban who invented the chance bump in with high school players. Oh, I didn't know you were going to be at this practice field. Imagine that. We bumped into each other. While we're here, let's have a chat. Okay? Those sorts of things. Now you have a recruiting coordinator. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we talk to this kid now? Can we call him? When can we go visit him? We only have one in-home visit. How is that supposed to go? When are we supposed to do that? It just, now the gloves are coming off, and it just seems like the NCAA is just going to say, you know what? Do what you want, and we're going to kind of reel this in as we see problems developing or as people complain about it. And it just seems like the exact wrong way to go about it. It's just this. It seems like this retroactive. Let's just get all these rules out of the rule book and just worry about coaches screwing it up later. And there's so many other things wrong with college football and the NCAA and the rules with recruits and what they can and can't do, or football players getting money. We'll just have to see how it all works out. But, Lord, I pray for next year's 5-star and 4-star recruits all across the country, because it's going to be a living nightmare for them getting recruited by all the schools under the sun. It'll be interesting. I can imagine some of the stories that are going to come out. That's it for this edition of the CrowLine. I'm Tyler Garrett. This is the Carolina CrowLine. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week for your full recruiting breakdown. We'll see you next time. Go Cox.